It is Thursday, July the 28th, 2020 at 6 o'clock, and we call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 I would like to welcome everyone here tonight and those watching online to our special community input meeting on the reopening of Wight County Schools in the fall. We recently asked employees and parents for feedback on the plans that were presented to the board during the July 23rd meeting. If you aren't here tonight to speak in person, we have your survey information, and we will be looking through all the comments you shared with us before making our decision. The next 48 hours will be one of the most important two-day windows of time Wight County Schools will ever have faced. The task before the board is staggering. We want to make sure we hear from everyone who took it upon themselves to attend this meeting in person so they could share their remarks publicly. In order to make sure we don't detract from the 3 minutes each speaker is allotted, I ask that you refrain from interrupting the speaker and hold your applause after each speaker so we can hear from as many citizens as possible. In addition, the board will listen and consider all comments you have, but we will not be responding to any questions during the citizen comments tonight. There will be different opinions expressed this evening. If you hear someone voice their choice that is different from yours, do not make them feel worse. Give them grace. Every single one of us is in this hard place. Ms. Perkins will lead us in the pledge and the moment of silence.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
At this time, Dr. Thornton will now go over the logistics for the evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have things run smoothly. We just want to go over a few logistics. And so if you are speaking, Jessica is going to call the first two speakers, and if you would come over here near where she is, and she'll guide both of the speakers to the podium. After the first speaker speaks, Jessica will call the next speaker, and we'll give our people time to wipe off the podium, and you can just come straight to the podium so that we keep a good flow going. We do ask when you speak if you would come up this way and come up this side aisle and come over here, and when you're done speaking, go down that way and out this side aisle. If you do not want to stay, then you can go all the way down, and Tina, if you can raise your hand, and go out that door, and we'll guide you out back through the front door. So just so that we can stay spaced and keep things moving. I would like to say also, we are following CDC guidelines, and I mentioned those the other day. When we're in a building, coming and going, we ask that you wear the mask. We have you spaced 6 feet. So if you feel comfortable and want to take it down, it's your choice. But I know some people feel comfortable if everyone leaves them on, but you are spaced 6 feet apart. I think that covers it.
Okay, so we open the floor for comments at this time.
Our first two speakers are Ms. Sharon DuBois and Ms. April Watkins.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Thornton. Thank you for having us here and giving us the opportunity to share.
Okay, make sure you speak in the mic, so they can hear you online as well as in the back.
Am I doing it right? Got it. Okay, now I got it. Right, my name is Sharon DuBois, and I have the honor of starting my 17th year at Smithfield High School, and I appreciate the opportunity that you give us to speak publicly. I am very pleased to be here at all. I am a 5-year cancer survivor in remission, still good, happy for that. And one of the concerns that I do have is for the disruption for our students. It has been terribly hard on our kids, having to leave the buildings, and for us teachers, having to suddenly be thrown into it in March. That was very difficult. Now, I do know that I myself, might be getting too close, I myself and many other educators spent our summer studying hard to get our Google Level 1 educator certification. So we are hoping to make sure that the instruction that we do online this fall will be a lot more effective. I'm not the only one that's gotten that certification. I passed my exam, and I think about 60% now of our educators have already passed. And we are all working towards that goal of passing our Level 1 certification. In addition with the disruptions, I also have concerns as a former working parent. My son is grown now, but I know that a lot of our parents are having a lot of hard issues getting care for their children. And one of the concerns I had was knowing that it is often elderly relatives and friends and neighbors that the job falls upon. If we do the A Day, B Day instruction, we will be exposing them repeatedly when the children come home after having been at school around all of us teachers. Whereas if we do the 100% virtual, there'll be less exposure for those caregivers. I think we need to keep in mind that although Isle of Wight County has been blessed to not have as much of an issue as the rest of Hampton Roads, it doesn't like me, we do have many of our faculty and staff that come from Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, all these places that are indeed hotspots. And I think it's more of a danger to the community of us bringing it to the children and then them bringing it home and transmitting it, as well as, of course, us teachers ourselves becoming exposed. But I thank you for your time, and that's just my 2 cents. I do think we need to start 100% virtual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss, I'm sorry if I say this wrong, Miss Tayaka Booker.
You may go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent and members of the board. My name is April Watkins, and I am an educator and a mother of 2 boys, a rising 2nd grader and a preschooler who will both be attending Hardy Elementary. I'm here today to share the reasons why I believe that we should reopen our schools. My 2nd grader, James, is attending public school, has been attending public school since he was 3 years old in an inclusion classroom. He is academically gifted, but he has social delays and a fine motor delay. James worked really hard to relate to his peers. Since school let out in March, he has regressed greatly in his social skills. He has reignited some obsessive behaviors that we had thought he had outgrown because he doesn't have peer role models to influence him. While schools remain closed, James will likely continue to regress because he thrives in an environment where he has peer role models. He will not be alone in this either. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, an article published by NPR, the students who will suffer the most while schools remain closed are minorities, children with special needs, and children from low-income families. This article goes on to say, and I quote, "Remote learning is likely to result in severe learning loss and increased social isolation." According to the CDC, they recently updated their beliefs on this to agree with the American Academy of Pediatrics, and Governor Northam made a statement similar to this week alone. It is a very privileged notion that all kids will receive the same quality education in a virtual platform. By separating kids with special needs from their typical peers, you are violating the American with Disabilities Act that states children must be educated in the least restrictive environment because they do not have access to peer role models. Online instruction is also restrictive to students who do not have access to quality internet, a device to access their schoolwork, or parents that are able to help them due to their own work schedule or lack of knowledge. Online instruction is also incredibly difficult for students who receive additional services to access them at home. James normally receives occupational therapy twice a week for 30 minutes every day, or every week, but the entire time that schools were closed, he only received 3 sessions for 30 minutes total, meaning that he missed at least 5 of his required sessions, according to his 504 plan, which is a legal document. As an educator myself, I understand the concern with returning to in-person instruction. However, according to your board's own survey, which you released publicly, 95% of your teachers are willing to come back in person for instruction. So let's reopen school. If parents choose not to send their students, that is a choice that has existed long before a pandemic. They have the choice of virtual school and homeschooling and private school. If they want to choose those options, that is fine for them. But for those of us who need to make an equal education for our kids, we need public school to be open. I really implore you to open schools this fall. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Joyce Myers.
Good evening. My name is Tiaka Booker. I'm a parent.
Could you hold 1 minute? Okay, we ask that you refrain from saying names of students. You can say the gender, whatever, but don't say the child's name, is a request of the board. Okay, thank you, and you may continue.
Okay. My name is Tiaka. I'm a parent of 3 amazing children here in Wight County Schools. We've been in this district for 2 years, and I can start by saying that I sent an email to the board on the 20th where I had questions and none of my questions were answered. And I kind of have an issue with that because that is what helps me make a decision about my kids returning to school. My first question was in regards to parents being on the committee. To my knowledge, not a single parent. I love this forum, but none of us were invited to participate in the committees. And I have an issue with that because how can we be represented if you don't know my full opinion? The surveys asked limited questions. We couldn't put everything we wanted on the surveys. I understand that some things discussed would be beyond what some of us are used to on a daily basis, but having parents that are employed by the district is not necessarily representing me because I have my own opinion, and I'm pretty sure many of others in here have their own opinion that we would have liked to voice before tonight. So it could have been included in possibly helping shape some of the information that was presented last Thursday. My other issue is a healthcare plan. Right now, everything I've heard is in regards to what has been found according to the CDC. My oldest is autoimmune compromised. I would love to see him in a school, but I cannot send him to school if you guys can't tell me how you're going to keep him safe while he is at school. He is on a 504 for his health, and if you guys cannot actually come up with a plan for him, it makes it difficult because whatever you guys provide, I have to take to his doctor to make sure that it falls in line with what we have for him. If my son can't come to school, none of my kids can come to school because we don't want to risk exposing him. My other issue is I felt like fourth quarter, y'all wasted my time. Y'all had my kids do work, and none of it got counted. So how am I to believe that going into virtual learning for this quarter, that you guys are going to take it as serious as we took fourth quarter? I made my kids do every single assignment that was sent. People said they didn't have access to resources, y'all provided iPads. People said they didn't have Wi-Fi, y'all equipped 4 buses and put it out there. Y'all gave us worksheets that y'all left out for days on end, and if you flip to the back of the worksheet, there was work that could have been done without access to Wi-Fi or the internet. None of that was acknowledged. My kids worked really hard, and to not get that acknowledgement from the school board, to not get that acknowledgement from Wight, that was a slap in my face as well as theirs. I don't appreciate that, I did not like that, and it makes it difficult to swallow the pill of possibly having them do virtual learning and enforce that they do virtual learning. My other issue is I don't feel like there's a lot of transparency. There's talk, sure, you guys include our opinion, but if you look at the survey that just got sent out, if you have more than 3 kids, that survey is difficult to fill out because it keeps asking you for more children after 3. If you don't put anything in there, you can't continue. So either I have to do the survey more than once to account for all 3 of my kids, or I'm going to give up and not do the survey at all. Therefore, you don't get to hear my opinion because I couldn't get past putting in 3 kids. And my last thing that I wanted to point out is I have a really hard time listening to some of the comments that are made. I feel like there have been some reckless things that are said specifically related to transportation. Telling me that transportation is a privilege for my kids to get to school does not turn me on to continue to send my kids to this school. Research needs to be done in that because there's way more to it than just saying that my child needs to be on an IEP or 504 in order to receive bus privileges to the school. I get that transportation is limited, but do you guys realize if you take that away, you have to open up your budget for other things? So I highly suggest looking into everything that is being said because that was a real reckless comment that is going to drive students out of this district. Less students means less money. Right now, we're trying to keep money in our district. We're also trying to keep more students. The way that this is being handled, I don't feel like it's being handled with a sense of urgency. Right now, I feel like my child is a number.
That's time.
Okay.
Sorry.
So please make me feel like my child is included in a district and they are not numbers in a budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Steve Milillo.
I'm going to start giving you guys a minute warning, so in case you're running out and want to hit a key point. So I'll just say 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Myers, and I am one of those senior caretakers of a student who's getting ready to go into Smithfield Middle School. By the way, a straight A student who's never made anything but an A. And I am here to speak to say, get the kids back in school. I have a master's in social work, and another lifetime ago, I worked as a juvenile probation officer in Newport News. And you know what I did? I took those kids to school. Do you know what it does to kids who drop out of school, who don't go to school? And many that I took to school didn't have a friend. So I took them and we made friends. I also did outpatient play therapy at Riverside Mental Health. And I see what it does to kids that we've heard referenced with special needs, and they don't have the social activity. My grandson did not prosper on the virtual learning. For me, it appeared that all but one of his teachers was a deer in the headlights. And it wasn't just the students here, not all who have internet access, and I met a woman here last Thursday who sat in a car with a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, so her 6-year-old could get Wi-Fi. I think that we have to look at the consequences long-term of what it can do, because our kids, if they're not back in a classroom by January, do you know that's 9 months? Let me repeat that. 9 months they will have been out of a classroom. That has never happened in my lifetime. And I don't think there's anything good about that. I think we need the kids back in school. I think we, as parents, caretakers, we have to be careful, yes, when they come home, but I can assure you, when he comes home to me, I will be washing my hands and wearing a mask. I wear a mask when I go out. But the numbers in Isle of Wight County, if any of you listened to Governor Northam today, I did.
1 minute.
Governor Northam pointed out that all of the localities in Hampton Roads, except Isle of Wight County, had huge increases in cases amongst 20-year-olds. We're not talking about 20-year-olds. So I am a strong proponent, and I trust all of you, and I know this is going to be the hardest decision you've made, but I can't sleep at night either. Please do what is best for our kids and get them back in school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Matt Ployd.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Steve Milillo. I was a public school teacher for 17 years. For the past 45 years, I have been an international teacher, guest lecturer, master class conductor, composer, and guest conductor in as many as 28 different countries. Some of the things I'm going to address tonight deal with these things, and I actually have a business card if anybody wants to write to me and get these links so that you can do your own research. I'm going to take quotes from a 30 June 2020 Huffington Post article entitled "America's Pediatricians Say Schools Should Open in the Fall." I'm going to talk excerpt from a 24 July 2020 CNN article, "New CDC Guidelines Come Down Hard in Favor of Opening Schools." 23 July 2020 CDC website, the importance of reopening America's schools this fall. And from a 1 June 2020, thehill.com, science says, open the schools. So to start with the quotations, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, states that of the first 68,998 U.S. deaths from COVID-19, only 12 have been in children under age 14. That's less than 0.02%. Nor is coronavirus killing teenagers. At last count, the fatality total among children under 18 without any underlying condition is estimated to be 0.001%. The death of even one child, of course, is tragic. Yet it must be kept in mind that as many as 600 children in the United States died from the flu in 2018, according to CDC estimates, while the CDC's estimate for COVID-19 is just 12. So I have more that you can investigate on your own. Here are just some of the pullouts from the CNN article. New U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention come down hard in favor of opening schools, saying children don't suffer much from coronavirus, are less likely than adults to spread it, and suffer from being out of school. It is critically important for public health to open schools this fall, says CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfeld in the CDC's 24 July updates. School
1 minute.
Time?
1 minute.
Okay. So let me just jump to my thing. You can have my entire speech, which excerpts all of these articles. Teachers and school officials, you know, this is all about how important you are in the kids of our lives. So, in fact, we have people with us tonight, doctors in our area who are internists and pediatricians who offer their support as well, and they actually represent a good sampling of all the students here. Based on the sources which I've only just partially cited, if one were to do an objective, non-emotional based scientific cost-benefit analysis of schools closed versus schools open, one would clearly see the compelling logic for reopening the schools, with CDC guidelines still in place to respect those with continued concerns. So I trust that Isle of Wight County will make an objective, fact-based decision, open the schools,
That's time.
and allow our children their right to our tax-paid education. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Crystal Brooks.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me? All right, good. My name is Matt Floyd. I am a world history and government teacher at Smithfield High School. I'm also the president of the IWEA, and it's kind of in that capacity that I'm here today. I wanted to come up and discuss, I had sent you guys a letter that comes from our executive board listing a lot of our concerns and our issues. 3 minutes isn't a lot of time, so there's some issues that weren't on there that I wanted to touch base with you guys. But first and foremost, I wanted to say, as far as the teachers in this community, and you guys know this, Lazarus has got nothing on them because they will rise to every occasion you put in front of them, and they proved it last spring, okay? We're going to continue to rise and step up to whatever you guys decide and whatever you guys ask of us. That being said, there's some serious issues that we need to consider before moving forward. First and foremost, of all of us, the major concern we need to consider ourselves with is the physical health of every student that walks through that door and the physical health of every faculty member that's working with those students, okay? Statistics have started off with this when it started being 60 to 75 being your target audience, your target demographic you were worried about having issues. Then it came down. Then it's 45 to 60. Now we're seeing 20 to 40. It will continue to trickle down. That's a trend, okay? The more we bring these kids together and the more we concentrate, the more we're going to see this trend rise. Florida just lost a 9-year-old girl the other day, so don't tell me teens don't die. It does happen. Statistically, is it small? Absolutely. But it's a big deal when it's your kid. It's a big deal when it's their teacher. How are we going to work with the students? How are we going to do grief if the kids see one of their classmates or their teacher on a respirator? I don't have an answer for that. Dr. Thorne himself outlined a great plan for mitigating a lot of the concerns and a lot of the issues, but he himself admitted one of the concerns we have is transportation. Those bus drivers, their primary concern is focusing on the road. How are they going to control the kids in the back to make sure they're socially distancing? How are they going to make sure that
1 minute.
child A is keeping their mask on? They can't. He said, if you can drive your child, drive your child. That is great for the people that have the economic means, but for those that don't, once again, that's not exactly showing a lot of equity here in our community at a time where we definitely need to stress and influence that. Smithfield High School alone has 1,300 students. We're told if any of those students show any of the common cold symptoms which correlate with COVID, that we're supposed to send them down to the nurse to decide who gets quarantined. That's 1,300 students. How many of those students are going to come down in one day for one nurse? And they're going to congregate. And we're going to end up having a situation where people are sharing and exchanging germs. This has the potential of becoming extremely major. If we bring these students back at one time, it has a situation where we have a lot of teachers that work outside of the community that can bring germs in. They can also take germs out. We don't want to be the catalyst for a major outbreak in this area. I think we need to consider the governor's decision to move back to stage 2 and do likewise with virtual learning. Thank you very much.
Mr. William Constance.
Good evening. I'm going to slide this down because I'm a little short. My name is Crystal, and let me first say thank you for allowing me to speak today and for the preparation that went into the presentation that was presented last week. We have a 10th grader and a 6th grader in Smithfield Schools, and hearing the plan did give us some comfort to know that somebody had taken this seriously and taken the time to give us an option. Like many families, one option does not fit the needs of both of our children. Our son has a health issue that will unfortunately limit us to virtual education for him, even though he wants to come back to school. Whereas our other daughter has an IEP, and AB days is what she needs for her education. However, we do understand the fears because my husband and I both work at the Naval Hospital and we have seen what COVID can do. However, we get up every day and we go into the hospital and we work because we are vital to the mission. And dare I say, teachers, just as vital as we are for the education of our children. We believe getting back to some normalcy is vital for the mental health of not only our children, but our staff and our educators. We cannot stress this enough. It's imperative that parents be able to decide what is best for their children and for the needs of their family. One suggestion we have to assist with getting everyone back into in-person education, if they so choose, is actually to put policies in place similar to what the government has in place for us. So as employees of the military and of a civilian employee, we are restricted to our movements under phase 1 of the government's government plan, which means we don't go inside to restaurants to eat, we don't go to ball games, we don't congregate with people more than 10 people, and we keep social distancing rules in place. We wash our hands, we wear our mask when we're in public, and we can't keep 6 feet away from people. We suggest that you put policies like this in place for those who decide to come into in-person education. That way, it protects the teachers and the students and the parents. They sign guidelines saying they understand the rules, that if they choose to participate in in-person education, that they will adhere to those guidelines, which will limit their exposure to COVID viruses. We ask that you allow parents to decide what is best for their families and for their situation, because everyone is going to have a different situation. And as a family with a child of special needs, being in school is better than being out of school. The teachers are doing their very best, and we wish them all safe, healthy experiences. We want all the children to be safe and healthy, but we also want education, and we want the kids to flourish and to grow and not to commit suicide because they are home and they are alone without friends. So thank you today for listening to me, and I pray that you all have safe and that you can make this decision with not a burden on your heart. Thank you.
Ms. Susan Cook.
Evening. I'm William Constant. I'm a teacher at Smithfield Middle School.
Please talk in the mic. I don't think they may hear you online.
Is that better? Start again. Evening. I'm William Constant. I'm a teacher at Smithfield Middle School. First, I want to state that the safety of students come first. I know that at Smithfield Middle School, our students are our first priority and always will be. I know that the school board will do right for our students. I know I don't make people happy when I make this statement. I want to be back in my classroom every day teaching. But then again, I don't make my wife happy every day either. On to the second most important issues, teachers, assistants, and office staff. How does the county plan to help the teachers this year? Things the county needs to think about. Number of hours in the day do not change. We, the teachers, have been putting in 60-plus hour a week for years. That's not going to change, but it's going to have to. Teachers have families too. We're not going to be able to put in the hours after work like we've done in the past. Life has changed. Our family and our health has to come first. Teachers working part-time jobs make ends meet. Money never seems to be available for staff. True, we were told for years we work for the love of the students, and we do love our students. Unfair pressure has been applied to teachers to become Google One certified by August 15th. We were told this in May. My boss, Matt Johnson, best principal there is, also believes family life is very important. He wasn't afraid to back his staff up. He went to central office, and he got the expectations downsized, so all we had to do is take the test by August 15th to get certified. For the people who don't know, Google One certification is a test, 3-hour time, and you have to put in a lot of practice with the 11 different Google apps to pass it. Teachers learned last week in the school board meeting that we have to learn Canvas before the students return. Summer reading is expected. Also learning that we can't work in our schools to get our rooms ready this year due to HVAC problems. In a normal school year, a teacher has little time to prepare for lesson plans, planning with teammates in contact area, and setting up the classroom due to central office expectation. No clue what to expect this year. School board expectations keep increasing. With online classes or normal classes, this is greatly going to affect for the need for teachers for more time in their own school to get work done, meaning less meeting and trust their teachers to get the job done. I am blessed that I work in the best school in the world, the best staff, and have lifelong friends at Smithfield Middle School. We know that students are going to need help. Is there a need for all the diagnostic testing at the beginning of the year? With less time in the classroom, we need to be focused on the material that we need to teach. I want to thank you for your time. I'm off to de-stress for the next week at the beach, then prepare for my kids for the upcoming school year. I know, like every year, the teachers in Wight County will step up and get the job done. The county's blessed. They have the best teachers in the world here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Tamara Missel.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Cook. I have an upcoming senior this year. I would like to see the schools reopen all the way, but if that is not possible, I would like to see the AB schedule put into effect this year. For all the students that are in middle school and high school, our kids need to be able to interact with their friends, with their peers. They need the socialization of each other. They need time with their teachers. They need to know how to cope with the authority of leaders. This way, if they have a problem or they have a question, they can, about any of their instruction, they have their teacher in person to go to ask questions. I have in the past, my child has needed extra help on instruction. And the teachers that he has had has been wonderful. They have helped him more than anything in this world. He did online for the last, since March 16th. He did online instruction. He did wonderful, but he missed his teachers. He missed his friends. He missed the attention that he actually got when he was in school. And I did have to call the teachers. I had to call the teachers and I had to say, did he do this assignment or this assignment? Because I am one that goes on Power School all the time. And anyway, he got honor roll for the last year, but for actually the last years in his high school. But he needs this instruction. He needs his peers. He needs to go back to school. And I asked him the other day, I said, if you could actually do online learning or you could go to school, what would you want to do? I said, if you go online learning, you have no friends, you have no teachers, you have nothing as far as school goes, nothing. And he told me, he said, you've just summed it up for me because I want to go back to school. He said, I do not want to be sitting in my room staring at a computer screen. And he said he wants to be interacting with his friends. He wants to go back where the teachers are. He said that being in school, he would have someone his age to talk to. He would have someone to listen to. He could listen to the other students' opinions of things. He needs the knowledge of his teachers. And middle and high school students are old enough to keep masks on. They're old enough to social distance. Education in person is beneficial to our children, so they will be ready to go out into the world. It gives them the instruction to deal with people. It prepares them for college or for work. It is their future. School will be the most important thing they will ever do to prepare them for the outside world and the rest of their life. This cannot be taught online. It has to be face-to-face. All online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brandel Bradshaw.
Good evening, Dr. Thornton and school board members. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have some questions and some information that I pray you will find helpful in making the decision as to which plan to implement for this fall 2020 start of school. If a family chooses 100% virtual learning, how are the students going to be graded and held accountable for the information being presented? Because this did not happen the end of last school year. Will clubs or organizations be meeting? And if so, how will this impact those that choose 100% virtual learning that are currently members of clubs such as Beta Club? Also, how will Surge students and our gifted students receive their assignments and access to their Surge teachers? Now, for another important part of my life, I am a musician. If you have ever seen me, I ring handbells all around Hampton Roads. Music is a very important part of my life and my family's life. But there are extremely great risks with bringing band and choir back at this time. There are currently 2 studies being conducted that are being funded by the National Association for Music Education and the National Federation of State High School Associations. The 2 studies are being conducted at the University of Colorado in Boulder and the University of Maryland College Park. These will be 6-month studies. The first round is due to be up in this next week. There are many, many requirements to bring even wind instruments back into school. Rehearsals cannot be more than 30 minutes. And I can guarantee you, I have subbed here at Westside for Mr. Sorrell, you cannot get anything done in 30 minutes. And I will be more than happy to forward you all of the study information. I know I have some of y'all's contact information. But as a musician and a parent, I can tell you VSO, Chesapeake Bay Wind Ensemble, are not going to be performing or rehearsing anytime soon. To me, that speaks volumes. And I have a rising 7th grader. He has special needs. I actually have a compromised immune system and a father with a compromised immune system that lives with me. My son has already said he will not come back to Smithfield Middle and start Smithfield Middle next year, given the current situations. And based on what I heard from Governor Northam today, I would have to agree that we need to be 100% virtual learning, at least to start off with.
Time.
Thank you very much, and I pray that y'all can make this decision.
Thank you.
Ms. Jennifer Ashley.
Question, are we still considering an alternating schedule, a A/B, or a half-day?
Yes,
All
we
the
are.
options are open.
Okay. Most of my commentary will
You
be
can
directed.
bring that up.
Most of my commentary will be directed to that. My name is Brandel Bradshaw, husband of a teacher, Windsor Elementary, father of 3 beautiful boys that intend to go this fall. If we are seriously considering an alternating schedule, just want to make sure that we're airing some concerns we have, some potential unintended consequences. So with an alternating schedule, if my wife is a teacher and I'm a professional who's expected to be at work, I cannot effectively do my job from home, we'll have to find a daycare, a child care solution. We went down that path before our boys entered kindergarten, and there wasn't a lot of options available throughout the community. I don't know that it's realistic or responsible to think that our child care system could staff up fast enough to take half of the school-age children in the county. Another unique circumstance to us, it may be common for others, is that we have very unreliable internet where we live in Windsor, Everett's community. So expecting that our children would be able to receive the same education or the same exposure out of the classroom, or that my wife would be able to provide the content on the alternating days, is unrealistic. We've been down that road with satellite internet, with Verizon. We've petitioned the county for support to help get a line down our road, and we're not alone in this rural community. If I were to have to stay home because we don't have the family support structure, I couldn't effectively do my job. One of the unintended consequences is I work for a contractor, a union contractor in a market that is rapidly being taken over or competed with by open and merit shop jobs and contractors. And so we pay very well the craftsmen that work for us, 12 of whom live in the community when we search addresses, Carrollton, Smithfield, Windsor. So their jobs are in some way tied to my department's ability to go out and secure work to ensure their future.
1 minute.
Thank you, sir. So those are a couple of unintended consequences. Commingling our children in child care settings that are not prepared to take those children. So on the alternating days, that could be a problem where we actually expose and expedite whatever the infection is. All digital solutions going to be problematic for the internet reasons that I spoke to. I am personally in favor of returning to classes normal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jean Altizer.
My mom was terrified when I decided to put this sign in my front yard a few months ago. Because I'm from Virginia Beach, and if you put a sign like this up, you're looking to get your house egged, or worse. But I put it up in my yard, and it sat up until I left my home to come here tonight. I plucked it right off of that metal rod to bring it here tonight because I'm proud to teach here. I love what I do, and I love my kids. I love seeing them in the grocery store or hearing that they got their first job, and I can pop into Doodle Doos and see one of my babies. Because they're not my students, they're my kids. And I love every one of them, and I tell them that every day when they leave my room. I want them to drag me up to their mom and say, this is Miss Ashley, this is my favorite teacher, this is the lady that made me like math again. And they do. Some hide behind the aisles, don't misunderstand me. Some hide behind that little cardboard thing for chips. But some drag their mama over and say, this is my teacher. I'm also a product of online learning. My bachelor's, my master's, and currently my ADS degree are all online through Region and Old Dominion. I know what it takes to be a successful online student. But my job, what I am tasked with, is to be a voice for our kids, just like you. Whether you're a parent or a teacher or an administrator, our job is to do what it takes for our kids. And every teacher will know what I'm saying when I say, we have a saying that says Maslow before Bloom, which means doesn't matter what I want to teach you. If you're hungry or you're scared or you don't know if you're safe, doesn't matter how many formulas I put on that board in front of you. You're not going to learn anything from me. We need you to help us keep our kids safe. We want them in our rooms. We want them in our lives. We love them. But we need you to help us keep them safe. Compared to a lot of the other districts, we did amazing with the switch to virtual learning. And we did that in a weekend. We were told Friday we were going virtual with the expectation we would start Monday morning. And we did amazing. And I'm going to toot everybody's horn here. We did amazing. Other teachers of the district have told you we've been tasked with being Google certified by the end of the summer. I am actually a Google certified trainer, and many of the other SHS teachers will tell you I have volunteered my time this summer to help them prepare for whatever this virtual learning may hold. And I will open that up to any school in the district. But we need you to help us keep our kids safe. That means being virtual for the first semester. That means helping us keep ourselves safe too. I didn't get to say goodbye to my kids in March. I wasn't at school that day. I was homesick, not COVID, luckily. But let me say goodbye to my kids, but not at a funeral.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the school board for your efforts so far in development of our potential plans for reopening schools in the fall. My name is Jean Altizer. I have a daughter who is a senior this year at Smithfield High School. Her father and I believe in some impersonal education would be best for her emotional and mental health and for the continued strength of her education. However, we would like this to be safe as possible. I believe that the 5-day traditional school week would set us all up for failure. I believe the traditional school week would not allow for the distancing necessary to try to keep our students and teachers safe. The proposals you presented call for wearing masks or physical distancing. I don't think this is safe enough. Today, when we go to the grocery store, we wear masks and physically distance ourselves from others. I find it hard to understand that you would not require masks and physical distancing within the school. The students and teachers will be in school for much longer than we spend shopping and should require more protection, not less. From what I've seen online, in terms of school openings, is that both masks and physical distancing are recommended, but acknowledge that it can be difficult to do both in all situations. I believe that today calls for extreme measures, and we should work towards minimizing the instances when both are not possible, not just require one or the other. I believe maintaining physical distancing in the classroom and in the halls will only be possible with AB scheduling with blended classroom and virtual instruction. I believe that it would be improper to put the inconvenience of having our children learning from home on a part-time basis above the health of our children, teachers, and our families. At the July 23rd school board meeting, we were told that we were going to have the opportunity in the near future to make a choice between the school board's plan for in-person instruction and 100% virtual learning. My concern is that even if your plan sounds good, what are our options if we are not comfortable with the actual implementation? Implementation will require all involved parties to behave safely and follow all guidelines. Also, I'm wondering if you have considered the number of cases that you would consider okay before changing your in-person policies. There will be cases. This means there's also the possibility of hospitalizations and deaths. We need to do what we can to keep our students, our teachers, our families as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
A second. I've kept track of Isle-White cases, and somebody said today that the governor didn't list Isle of Wight as cases going up. Well, I can see without doing any statistics that July is about twice as bad as June was, just looking at the bar charts. So, thank you.
Mr. William Carter.
Hello, I'm Vicki Robertson. It appears that everybody's telling how they are part of Wight County. Well, I grew up here, and but I left, and I did 36 years in Arlington County. I have a master's as a special reading teacher. And here, we retired, and we came back home, and I do a literacy group, and we work from Main Street. I also teach a GED class. As I've looked at the models, most of the counties are going virtual. The only thing I'm missing in Isle of Wight County is that there should be some type of teacher work planning. So we need to be able to do the planning, because it takes so much longer to do the planning as a webinar. I took the webinar classes this summer for the GED program. I understand it a little better, but you know, it's a day-to-day working thing. We also have done our literacy program by Zoom and Google Classroom, and that's working out pretty good. Teachers, instead of doing Monday through Friday, we would have a Monday teacher planning day, and they would work on how to understand webinar, how to understand how to use Canvas, Google, and Zoom in distance learning, how to integrate that curriculum using distance learning for all students, because we have to teach all the students, to develop their lesson plans using distance learning. You know, one of the things that happened in the spring was that some children didn't get the instruction that they needed. So my thing is to use, I'm not sure I got it right. We use Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We use Wednesday as an independent virtual learning using Canvas. We use Thursday with Zoom, and then we do, in the afternoons on that block, we do an afternoon specials. We do the special ed, the PE, the small groups, the resource, the art, and the music in between that 9 to 11. And the same thing between that 1 to 3. Even if we did a hybrid, it would be the same thing. But we need more time for the teachers to plan so that they can get to our students.
Thank you.
All right, is this working?
Yes.
All right, thank you for seeing me this evening. My name is William Carter. I am a resident of Isle of Wight County. I am a father of a rising junior, father of a recently graduated senior. I am a paramedic firefighter by profession for 23 years. I hold a degree in biology. I work as an infection control officer within the department that I work for. First thing I want to say is Chicken Little, the sky is not falling. At this point in time, we've looked at approximately 87,000 cases of COVID-19 in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, some of those are suspected cases, some of those are tested positive by going through a drive-through with no symptoms whatsoever. The last patient that my crew had to deal with COVID fell and hurt his knee, had no symptoms of this whatsoever. CDC, every healthcare organization has said children are at extremely low risk. Estimates of 0.01% mortality to 0.06%. According to the Virginia Department of Health, we have a much bigger risk of our children dying in a car accident or due to some other trauma or overdose while en route to school than we do in school itself. Send the kids back to school. My kids are not learning virtually. They went through the entire program last year. I asked my son today how many electrons are on a hydrogen atom, and he had no idea, although he had just finished up a chemistry class. They are not learning. Brookings.edu, we find that the impact of attending a virtual education on the student achievement is uniformly and profoundly negative. They are not the only one to put this information out there. I can bore you all night long with pages and pages that I have found from this. The virtual learning is not working. My children personally told me that at times they were not honest in their learning and their test taking. Their friends were not honest in their learning and test taking. We are looking at the next epidemic to be uneducated, ignorant generation coming along. It is time to do something different.
1 minute.
I know that many of the school districts have chosen to go virtual. Based on what? Based on science? We have no science to indicate that we have this big of an issue with these kids. They are low risk for spreading it. That is put out according to CDC and Harvard Medical. Harvard Medical even estimates that 20 to 50% of the population have some level of immunity to COVID-19 just based upon other coronaviruses they've come in contact with. We're not doing them any favors by keeping them at home. Let them go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mary Ann McKee.
Good evening. My name is Amy Carr, and I am a teacher at Carsville Elementary. I am also a parent of 2 daughters that are students at Georgie Tyler Middle and Windsor High. I come to you tonight to express my thoughts on returning to school. Unfortunately, we do not live in a zero-risk society. Every day of our entire lives, we have encountered risk. Risk to our health, risk of life and death, all while in our homes, driving our cars, when we do our shopping in stores, and yes, even in our schools. Risks are a part of living. I once read that the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. If you risk nothing, then you risk everything. As a teacher and as a parent, I'm ready to go back to school. No, I don't want to get sick. No, I don't want kids to get sick. What I do want is to go back to school with mitigation in place to keep all of us who choose to go back as safe as possible. I want the children back in the classroom where the majority of them learn best. I want children to have increased interactions with their peers. I want students to receive the best support for their social emotional skills as well as their mental health. I want all students to have reliable internet that's found in the school buildings. I want to be able to identify and close educational gaps quickly. I want services for students with disabilities to be implemented with greater success. I want to ease the social isolation and anxiety caused by not physically being in school since March. This is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Give parents the choice. Give teachers the choice. I, for one, will teach with excellence in mind, whether it's in school or virtual. But I strongly hope it's back in my classroom at school, with students there with their cute little masks on, sitting 6 feet apart, so we can see and feel the excitement of a new school year begin. Please let parents and teachers have the choice in sending the students of Wight County back to school. Do not let what other neighboring counties and cities are doing influence your decision this week. Do what's right and let us make the choice to return to the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon Pope.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, and I don't envy your job, the job you have before you, but I am the parent of 2 children, rising 8th grader, rising 9th grader in Smithfield Middle and Smithfield High School. Reopening schools, in my opinion, is the best thing for not only the individual child, but for the community. COVID-19 is not much of a pediatric disease. Less than 2% of known cases have been in children, and most who contact the virus only get mildly ill, and of those, most recover nicely. So if we are looking to modify a normal school schedule, the consideration is not in the interest of the children, and that seems backward. Research has shown that children are low risk, both to each other and to the adults with whom they come in contact with. Several published articles in the Journal of Pediatrics and their public studies have indicated that very few transmissions appear to be from child to adult. The Academy of Pediatrics has issued guidance that would indicate the best option for school-aged children is to be in school full-time. The benefits of reopening schools are numerous. Our children are not going to be as successful in learning with a modified, intermittent in-person schedule, and certainly not in a 100% remote schedule. The social, emotional, economic consequences of children being out of school are real and could very well affect the disadvantaged children even more than mainstream children. So some don't have homes or parents or resources enough to support distance learning at all. Parents who are already stretched, and I would submit that we're all stretched in our current culture, are now being forced into, at best, part-time teacher positions. Yes, there are kids. Yes, there are responsibility. And all that sounds good, except that the reality is that some kids are going to miss out on critical instruction, and all, in my opinion, already have. We cannot possibly make up for the learning loss that has occurred since March. Perhaps our goal should be to eliminate further damage. Truthfully, the school day is the best and only stability some children have. The impact of depriving our children of a full educational experience is unknown and scary. Restoring the normal school schedule is critical. I have smart, well-behaved boys, but they still need to be in school. Think of all they're missing: relationship development, social growth, emotional support, academic growth, sports participation. The list is endless. I'm sure the closures have already cost potential scholarship opportunities and the like. Rather than figuring out how to teach students who are sitting in their kitchens, we ought to be figuring out how to bring them to school and do it safely. Children with specific vulnerabilities or children with high-risk families may need to be educated at home, but most aren't in a high-risk category. Some parents have to work. What then? Some parents admirably want to work, which is a lost art in today's society. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael Uzzle.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Shannon Pope, and my husband and I are both physicians that have served this community for the past 15 years. We are board certified in internal medicine and pediatrics. We have committed our lives and our careers to the health and welfare of children. I was hesitant to speak tonight, but we are in a unique position that we are exposed to children, parents, and teachers every day in our job, and we have been urged with text, messages, calls, and emails to please come tonight and speak. So I'm here to give you our opinion, and I hope that you realize that it's an educated opinion based on facts and not fear. What we know is that COVID-19 among children suggests that children are less likely to get infected than adults, and when they do, they generally have a less severe illness. They also appear less likely to spread the virus. According to last week's news, there has not been a single case in the world where a child has transmitted the infection to a teacher. In fact, in the Pediatrics Journal this month, the title of the article, COVID-19 Transmission in Children, the child is not to blame. I have left copies of many articles for you. So I think you need to focus on the data. As of July 21st, 6.6% of all COVID cases in the United States were in children, accounting for 64 deaths in the age of less than 18. This compares to flu season last year, 477 deaths in the United States. The year before, 644 deaths from influenza in the United States. So I would argue, if we do not shut down for flu season every year, when we know we face 500 to 600 deaths a year in children, why are we going to shut down our schools and prevent these children from being educated over 64? Not that we want one child to die. We are all in fear, but we need to base decision on facts. The American Academy of Pediatrics, as you have heard, strongly advocates for all children to return to school this year. I want to share with you a couple of stories from my patients. I have a 4th grade child in my practice with attention deficit disorder, learning disabilities, behavioral problems. His mom told me during the remote learning time that she could not get him to sit down for school at all. He had no education during this time. She was distraught.
1 minute.
A 1st grade teacher was exasperated, saying her children were carrying around the phone, showing them their room, their clothes, their pets. Many, many more stories I could go on. I want to share with you the CDC statement. The default needs to be that schools are fully open and operational in the fall so that students can resume full-time learning. In areas where there are hotspots, remote and distance learning might be need to be adopted for a certain amount of time, but the research and science continue to suggest that it is safer, healthier, and better for students to be in school full-time. It is not a matter of if it should be done, but rather how it must be done. The urgency is real. Schools can mitigate, as daycares, day camps, workplaces have for the past 5 months. Essential businesses have been open with safety in mind, and I believe that educating our children is essential business. So we support children returning to school on a full-time basis this fall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. John Post.
Good evening. Mike Aldrin. Well, yes, the school, we have a hard task on our hand this year. I just want to say that concern I have is all the concerns, but transportation is one of the issues that we got to look at very seriously too, because like you said, you got from 40 to 60 kids per bus, and those buses need to be some kind of way sanitized each run or whatever you want to do that. That's up to how you all want to go doing it, but that's one of the biggest issues is getting the kids to school. If they can't get to school, then it will be no school. So next thing I want to say is that even with the students with disability, you got to look at those too very seriously. A lot of them don't have internet service, and a lot of them can't afford it if they have it. So we got to look at those issues too for the students with disability. And also I want to say that don't forget to have a have-not. That falls under all the categories, a whole category whatsoever. So I know it's a hard decision you all have to make, and I'm pretty sure y'all will make the best decision y'all possibly can to what circumstance we got in hand. But like I said, transportation is one of the biggest things we got. We got 40 to 60 kids per bus. Now each bus will have to be sanitized. No buses should be going home with drivers whatsoever if we're going to do that situation. But that's a big concern. We have to do that. That's the first priority. I don't say first priority, one of the priorities we have to take place for that. Because like I said, from 40 to 60 kids per bus, and when they get to school, then there's another issue. So thing about that is just getting them to school safely and within the school system, keeping them safe. But I know it's a hard task, so I'm willing to help gain input of whatever I can. But just remember, the special ed, you have to have their education too as well. I know y'all won't forget that, and I won't let y'all forget that. But nevertheless, do your best you can. We're here praying for you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but Nanlia Robertson.
Hello, my name is John Post, and I live in Windsor and am a rising junior at Windsor High School this upcoming school year. Firstly, I would like to note that I do know how many electrons are in a hydrogen atom. And secondly, this entire time during quarantine, I have missed going to school daily, interacting with my friends, and especially my teachers. I learn the best when I am there in person. Last spring, however, I struggled immensely to get work completed, and it was difficult when I had a question and had to email a teacher and wait for a reply, which could take as much as 24 hours for an assignment that's due in 2. And so my opinion, personally, would be to go back to school like normal. However, with the health risks that have been presented and the problems that have also been presented with that, I would like to ask that we try the hybrid model. At least then, I and every other student in Isle of Wight County would get some independent work in the classroom and in-person instruction from the teacher. This, for me, would be the best model just because that interaction with the teacher is what helps me get through my week and what helps me get on with my day. So that is what I ask for y'all to do. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Ms. Sherry Murphy?
Hello, hi. My name is Natalie Roberts. I have a couple of concerns that I would like to address today. I enjoyed teaching my children this summer when they had to be on leave from school. And in my opinion, when we were doing the teaching from home, I really saw that 3 hours was good enough for them to do school. We have a couple of different options. We could split up virtual if we would like to, and also if we would like to go back to school. One of my biggest concerns is I have a going into kindergarten whose birthday is late. I wanted to test her for first grade. Now I don't know how I could do that. I have 4 children that go to Isle of Wight County, and I really enjoyed the time being with them over the summer because I was able to see what it was that they needed help the most in, and I was able to put my time in, and nobody knows like I do. I have a business. My husband works at the shipyard, so I am constantly cleaning at my salon all day, every day. I'm more tired from cleaning than actually servicing the clients. So when it comes back to the school, I understand what everybody is saying about trying to keep everybody safe. Sometimes I feel safe and sometimes I don't feel safe walking around with adults, you know, that don't even want to wear the mask. So what we have to impart in the children is do not be selfish. If you want to go back to school, wear your mask. If we do want to go back to school, the AB schedule is good, but there is a way that we also can split the time. If high schools go back to school, their time can be from 7 to 10. Middle school, if they do go back, it can be 9 to 12. West Side, if they go back to school, it could be 11 to 2. Hardy and Carrollton, it could be 1 to 4. Or if you want to switch around because younger children, their attention span is a little different, you can do 9 to 12 and switch the middle schools to 1 to 4. But 2 to 3 days a week to me is good with the children in school. If they do alternatives like music, PE, and band and stuff like that, that can be considered on the 4th day. And also I wanted to know, where does the substitute play a part? Because my mother, she is a substitute and she's with Isle of Wight County a lot. If the teacher was not able to make it that day, how would the substitute play that part? And if we did do the virtual, I would like a little more time with the children virtually if we did do that. If we had to split it up, it would be fine. But if we do go back to school, safety is a must, and we just have to impart that with the children. But it is going to be on to us still as parents to make sure that they are getting what their need is, because the teachers cannot do it all. So everybody will have to work as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lindsay Goodman?
Hi, I'm Sherry Murphy. I have 3 kids going into 3 different schools this year. I'm all for virtual learning, being a single widowed parent. I just think that it's crazy that everybody wants to socialize. I work at a pharmacy here in town, and the guidelines are changing every day. And for a kid to go through that, I don't think it's fair to them at all. As hard as it is to do virtual learning for a single parent and working at the same time, it's hard, but I think it's doable. I don't believe reopening the school is safe. I think it's too much risk, even if it is a small risk, that kids have a smaller percentage on catching it or spreading it or whatever it is. You have to think about the older bus drivers, the older teachers. I mean, you just have to look at every angle. I just don't feel comfortable sending the kids. And I would hope that you guys give the parents an option if you guys do decide on a certain one thing, if we're gonna get in trouble for not sending them to school, or whatever the case may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie Cunningham.
My name is Lindsay Goodman. I'm a mom of 4 boys, 3 of which attend schools in Isle of Wight County. So I haven't discussed with my kids the possibility of going back virtual. I guess I was kind of scared that they would, harp on it or dread the whole summer. Tonight, as I'm getting ready, they were asking me questions, so I kind of was giving them a little bit of information. And my oldest son, who's going into 7th grade, said that he didn't want to go virtual. And I was like, I know, buddy. I said, but unfortunately, it looks like a strong possibility that that might happen. And he was like, what? No. He said, that will ruin everything. He said, I promise I'll wear my mask. And it just broke my heart. I mean, I want to talk to you tonight, not only as a concerned mom, but also as a medical professional in our community. I'm a registered nurse. I first want to address the numbers. They're not quite what they seem. I can already feel the eye rolls, but seriously, every single time a patient is swabbed, it is recorded as a brand new case. They make our numbers look ridiculous. It's not the case at all. Not only is it many false positives, but people are being retested to go back to work and things like that, and they're counting them as new cases. CHKD has only had 15 children treated with COVID. 15. That is a ridiculously low number. And not one of those children required ventilation or passed away. My children have attended growing up at OBC in the past. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a daycare, preschool, after-school daycare solely for children of nurses and physicians at OBC. In my opinion, this would be one of the most high-risk children in our area because 1 or 2 of both of their parents are on the front line at the hospital. They never once closed since the beginning of this in March, and not one single case of COVID. In my registered nurse profession, I work in the maternity field. Several OB practices in our area are seeing a significant increase in 15 and 14-year-old teen pregnancies right now. These kids need structure. They need good role models. They need to stay in school. I believe this will make a direct impact on our dropout rate, and unfortunately, when these numbers come out, it's going to be too late. Honestly, with all the sanitation plans you have in place, thank you for all your hard work. I have never felt more confident and safe in sending my kids back to school. I feel we are not only at a decreased risk of our kids getting COVID, but also strep, flu, etc. I'm begging you to consider sending our kids back. If for some reason you choose virtual, please consider reevaluating the situation at 9 weeks instead of the semester. Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee Chapman. And also, I think this says Rev Williams.
Good evening to the school board. I just have a simple question. I first want to say thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak, and also for the parents and teachers who have concern as well. My situation is a little different, and the question that I have for you is, if I decide to send my child to an online school and or homeschool her, will she be able to participate in school sports if school sports is allowed later on in the school year? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have Christina Shoemate.
Yeah, put it closer to your mouth. We want to hear every word you have to say.
You want to hear every word?
Every word.
I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But nevertheless, I'm a retired educator myself, and I currently have 3 grandchildren in the Isle of Wight school system. One is in elementary school, one in middle school, and one is in high school. Virtual learning can be fun. I did virtual teaching in my latter years as a professor. And you can set virtual learning up in such a way that not only is it very educational, but it is fun. It can be fun. As I sat there and I thought about what I really wanted to get across to you, I thought about a situation wherein I would be out in public with my 3 grandchildren. And as I become a little graphic here, please bear with me. But I imagine a serial killer showing up on the scene. And what would I do with my 3 grandchildren? I dare not put them in front of me, but rather I would put them behind me, that I might protect them. COVID-19 is a serial killer. And I wouldn't dare to put my grandchildren in front of COVID-19. COVID-19 either kills or it wounds. Either way, none of us would want our children to be damaged by such a disease. Am I right about that? It's okay if you want to say amen to that.
1 minute.
So I want to say to you, let's try virtual learning until we know more about this disease and how it affects others. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Brittany Curl.
Hello, my name's Christina, and just to put this out there, I didn't plan on speaking tonight. I am a nurse and a mother of 2 kids. One will be starting preschool, and I have to say she's been looking forward to it for about 3.5 years. So she's severely disappointed because I've informed her that it may be online. So firstly, I'd like to say there's a lot of controversy over this pandemic. There are risks, benefits, and consequences with any option that you guys are offering. There's not going to be a correct option, and not everybody's going to be happy. There's no way to achieve that. This COVID pandemic is not going anywhere. It's going to stick around for a while, I feel. Some parents and even students are going to refuse to come back to school. We've already witnessed that this evening. Some parents are depending on their children attending school in person, so they're able to continue to work in order to provide for themselves and their family. Sending children to daycares is just the same as sending them to the schools in person, except it carries the same health risks without the educational benefits. So I am for and recommending that parents, teachers, the students should be afforded the opportunity to make their own decision on whether their children should return to school in person with regular schedule or 100% virtual. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Miss Louise Haskins.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak. I'm an advocate for in-person schooling. My child is going into the 2nd grade. Unlike before, the school board actually has time to process and plan for the 2021 academic year. I ask that you reflect on how the previous virtual education plans negatively affected children and their families, such as mine. My husband and I work full-time. To fully understand the negative impact that virtual learning had on our family, I have to give you a snapshot of our normal day. I normally get home with my children around 4:30. We'd have multiple virtual meetings with the teacher a week that was supposed to last 30 minutes, which normally lasted 45 to 50 minutes apiece. By the time we got done with that, it was time to cook dinner and prepare for the afternoon. After we ate dinner, got ready for baths, it was then 7:30 to 8 o'clock. We then had an hour's worth of virtual learning to do every night. That put us finishing around 9 o'clock at night. I then had a child who just got home from the NICU while on top of trying to plan and be a teacher. Virtual learning not only destroyed our opportunity for family time, but it also caused tension among our family that was not present before. As you know, a strong family foundation is essential of the success of a child, both academically and mentally. Life is too short. I have already lost a 14-month-old child. I almost lost my life and my daughter's life when my uterus ruptured last year. I will not put our family's mental health and quality time last to virtual learning. We will put that first, always. I want to also make you aware of not only the mental impact on our family, but also the financial impact. I have to pay almost $450 a month for childcare for my son who has to go to after school or childcare services because school is not open. Imagine a minimum wage worker having to pay that and maintain a household and put food on the table. I'm advocating for in-person schooling because my child deserves that. I cannot be a full-time worker, a mother, a wife, a housemaker, working on my 4th nursing degree and ensure that my child gets the high-quality education that he deserves. The quality of my son's education should not be at stake because his mother and father work full-time and cannot be stay-at-home parents. That's not fair to him or any other child or family that's in the same situation as we are. If you indeed choose virtual learning, please revisit and be mindful of the weekly requirements that were set in the previous academic year and the negative impacts that it had on families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Louise Haskins. I am adopted foster parent for Wight County, and I have 3 adopted children. And my concern about them going back to school, I know they want to go back to school. One is 16, and the other is 11, 10, and 9. But is it safe? And I work at a learning center. I'm talking about, I be at the bus stop, and I see how the children, 3 in a seat, sometimes 4 when they little. So that's no social distance. The same thing in school. It be so much together. You cannot keep children from each other. They are, they be acting and they gonna, is it safe? Just think about it. Is it safe for your child to go back to school? It's your own personal opinion. I know they need their education and it's good that they go back to school, but go back, make sure it's safe before you send these little ones back to school because we are their mouthpiece. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? You may come forward.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just came with the intention of listening, and then sitting here listening, I thought, okay, I do want to put my 2 cents in too. So I'm a mom, single mom, special needs child that is a rising 10th grader at Smithfield. I live in this county. I choose to because of the educators in the county. So it would be much easier for me to live in Williamsburg or on South Side, but I choose because when we started at Carrollton, those teachers were amazing. So I have an autistic child that services up to 10 teachers, every week. We did the virtual learning. The algebra teacher that was here that was so passionate was my daughter's algebra teacher. It was a nightmare, and I work from home. I don't know what side of this fence that I straddle. I really don't. My daughter today was the first day I talked to her about it to get her opinion. She wants to go to school. I get it, because she thinks school was what it was before March 16th. It's not. Somebody here mentioned sports. What sports? The MLB couldn't get it right. They had to shut down the Marlins. They can't play 3 games because 14 athletes tested positive. So you're going to put our kids in football uniforms and let them play basketball and breathe all over each other? I understand that children haven't been getting sick. I get that. I read all the statistics as well. But we've also kept our children confined in this country. Summer camps got shut down. Elementary or little kid programs, they're not taking all the kids. There's no longer 100 kids going to the YMCA. They're restricted to 20 kids. So we don't know what's going to happen to our kids. I just got up because the last woman that spoke, it's just about safety. We have to acknowledge that those seniors going back to school next year, if they go back after Labor Day, it's not the same. They're 6 feet apart. They're not having lunch in the lunchroom. My kid wants to know who's delivering pizza to her 10th grade class and which class is she eating in. So I hate it for y'all. I cannot imagine the pressure that you guys are under, because I've been straddling the fence today, straddling the fence. Do we send them back? Heck yeah, for me it would be a lot easier for me to send them back. But how many parents in this room weren't accountable for their kids for the 9 weeks? I sat with my kid every single day, her on her Mac, me on mine, me with headphones in, her with headphones in, side by side at our dining room table because I live in a condo and don't have an office, getting her work done. We would show up for classes. She'd be the only kid, 4 teachers trying to help her, the only kid that showed up for her algebra class multiple times. At some point, us parents need to be held accountable as well. If your kid didn't get it done, maybe it's because they didn't get up to get on to the class that they should have gotten onto. I cannot imagine what elementary school parents will go through, but I need you to hold the parents accountable, and all I'm asking for is whatever tough decision that you come up with, you give us some choices, and you acknowledge that school will not be the same. I think everybody needs to recognize that. They're not going back to social and socializing with their peers, and it may not be as fun, thank you, when they're sitting 6 feet apart and can't do recess. So.
Excuse me, ma'am,
Yes,
what
sir.
was your name?
I'm sorry, it's Monica West, and I live in Carroll.
Thank you.
My name is Thomas Pope. I'm a doctor here in town, the other half of Shannon who spoke earlier. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, so I don't really have any polished comments except to offer you a philosophical thing to think about, which is, when are we going to get to the end of COVID-19? There's only 2 ways we're going to get to the end of COVID-19, and that is either through getting the disease or getting an immunization. You have to do that. The experts have recommended that we get to 60 to 70% penetration into the communities or to the country or to the world for this to stop. Coronavirus is a typical common cold virus. When this virus is done, this will be a common cold in the future. It may be 3 years, 5 years, or 6 years. But the children have a unique opportunity to give back to the community and give back to the parents. Children at low risk for this disease. We've heard that many times over and over again. Children are not pawns in this chess game. But when I looked up the last statistics, 74 million children in the United States were under the age of 18 and in school. That makes up approximately 30% of our population. If we have to get to 60% herd immunity in order to stop this disease, the children are going to provide a huge reservoir to be able to stop this disease in a very efficient way, because they are the lowest risk people. So in order to stop this, we either got to get the disease or get an immunization as fast as we can. So the problem is, with what we're doing, is if we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to spread this disease over the next 3 to 4 years. We're going to be doing this for 3 to 4 years. You are going to be sitting here for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years deciding, do we send our kids to school? Do we do virtual learning? Or are we going back in person? The faster we get to herd immunity, the faster we'll be back to life as usual. And the children have a unique opportunity to provide that herd immunity, and we see that with all of our immunizations across the board, from measles, mumps, rubella, polio, and all the other, and influenza. And so it's very unique that the children have an opportunity to give this back. Yes, children probably will die from this. There will probably be some children that die. If this death statistic is correct and you apply that to 74 million children, you expect 7,400 children across the United States to die from this disease. It's going to happen. The same reason we've seen 150, 170, whatever we're up to for the country right now. But we do need to protect them. We need to be there. But this is an opportunity to put the kids back in school, do what's right for them, and then they can give back to the community in their own unique way. And then that's one of the big points that has gone missed in this whole discussion on what's going on across this country. But thank you. One last thing. This is my political statement. Governor Northam has been a pediatric neurologist. He's been board certified. He's a part of the AAP, and he refuses to follow their recommendations. Thank you.
Ms. Dolores Gwaltney.
Good afternoon. My name is Dolores Gwaltney. I am a former educator in Isle of Wight County. I would just like to say I sat there and I said I was not going to speak, but I sort of, my heart would not let me stand there and not say something. I've heard several comments. I look around and I look at the educators in this county, I look at the children in this county, and I think about the years that I taught, and I think about the things that we went through with our children. We had difficult times then with colds and other things going on, but it was different. COVID is something that's totally different. It's something that none of us have experienced before. As I heard one gentleman say, it started out being danger to our seniors. It has now trickled down, and I'm afraid that it's going to trickle down to our little children. That's my concern. I think that when we talk about bringing our children back into the schools, we need to really look at how we can socially distance them, keep them safe. I heard the young lady from Carsville talking about being able to social distance the children. When we think about the fact that Carsville is a very unique situation, we're looking at 10 to 12 to maybe 15 children per class. When we look in Smithfield and the other parts of Isle of Wight, we're looking at 25 to 30 children per class. What are we going to do to socially distance them to make sure that each child is protected and that they are educated? When, as Mr. Uzzle was saying, we look at the buses. Are we going to make 3 or 4 bus runs to get them here safely? Are we going to expect parents to bring them? Parents are working. So that's another option. So I ask you to seriously consider our children, the safety of our children when we make our decisions about returning back to school. I would really like to see the first few months be virtual, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I guess that is the end of comments. I would like to say thank you to everyone who took the time to come out. I feel your passion. Whichever opinion you have, there's some passion behind it. You heard all the varying opinions, no matter what we decide, there's going to be some disappointment. And I want to address the one speaker who said the email wasn't addressed. I don't know how that was missed, because I have spent hours responding to emails. And I am very sorry that yours got missed. As far as the transportation, I want to ask you, Miss Dr. Thornton, I want to make sure I understand this, because I'm the one who made the comment that transportation is a privilege, not a right, because that's the state. Isn't that the state? We have to transport special education students, but there's nothing in law that we have to transport the general ed. I was stating what I thought was part of the law, nothing that Jackie Carr believes or is stating an opinion of. I was trying to help parents understand what we're dealing with.
You're correct. It is the law. And I think it's a surprise to people, because we've been transporting children for 50 years. But it is not a requirement to transport children except for those with special needs.
Okay, so I just want you to know, my heart is everybody deserves a transportation to school, but it was just something I wanted parents to understand what we're dealing with and the law behind that. Again, did you have anything you wanted to say, Ms. Hulick?
Always.
Okay, Ms. Hulick.
I do want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know that I have responded to every email I've ever received. I've taken phone calls in my personal time for hours. I do work full-time. My husband works full-time. I have 3 children, 2 at Carrollton, 1 at Westside. And for me, I go back and forth because it is a difficult decision. One of the last ladies that spoke hit the nail on the head for me personally, because you want your kid to be in school. You want that normalcy. You want it to be the way it was, but we all have to understand it will never be the way it was. So it's about adjusting and figuring out what we can do that's best. I have a lot to think about. My mind is not made up. I still have a lot to think about, and you guys have given me a lot of great things to think about. And the people who have emailed me and called me, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time that you took to contact me. And I'm still open. Feel free to email me. I do work full-time, so sometimes I can't always pick up the phone if you call. But I will do my best to get back to you in the best way possible. And this is probably one of the most difficult decisions I will ever make on the school board, because it's not just for my kids, it's for all of us, the teachers, the staff, the students, and we have to take everyone into consideration when going into this. And not only their health, but their mental health as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Wilson, do you have anything you want to share?
Not anything that has already been said. I wish I knew the answer. The other day I made a comment in here. I said, we all just have to play out the hand that we've been dealt. When you decide the perfect answer, just try to slip around the corner and let me know. I really don't know. But I'm going to try to do my best to do what's fair and what's safe for every child that we try to educate. And there's an error of the head, not of the heart, but it's just doing the right thing. What I've done for others, I do the same for me. So I don't have a secret. I don't have a secret. The only thing I want what's best for every child in Isle of Wight County. Thank you.
Ms. Perkins?
No, all I'd like to say is they're all our kids. We think of your kids as our kids, and we want the best for our kids, and we want the best for your kids, and we're going to work our butts off to try to get it done.
Thank you. And Ms. Tynes?
I would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and the main thing I would like to say is our students need us more now than they've ever needed us in their lives. And we need to make sure that they are the first priority They're always our first priority, but the decision that we're going to have to make on Thursday morning, we will make sure that every student in Isle of Wight County is our first priority. And when I say student, that includes adult education as well. This week, I had opportunities to get emails, phone calls from parents, citizens, staff members. But one of them that just stayed with me was a staff member, and this is what they told me. We all miss our students, but life is so precious that we should not give into what we feel, but what we know to be right. Let's open when it's safe for all our students. And this is a staff member that's been in Isle of Wight County for years. So I would consider this individual as being one of our master educators. And when they told me that, it just stayed with me. And I promised that individual, when I sat down with my colleagues on Thursday morning, I will consider everything that you all said tonight, as well as what the staff member asked me to do as well. And that's about all I have to say. If you would like to come back Thursday morning, when we make our decision, that's fine. Please go home, be safe. Weather's bad out. Thank you.
Okay, and again, I thank you all. I thank you for the grace that you showed one another. Everybody was so polite. We thank you for coming, and we will see you Thursday morning. If not here, I'm sure you'll be watching online. This meeting is adjourned.